watcher. For centuries, my mission has been to watch and record humanity's history, seeing it evolve into the horribly wonderful race it has become. In recent times, I have watched colorfully costumed men and women with amazing abilities emerge to protect the helpless and innocent, pitting themselves against questionable individuals who would turn their equally astonishing talents against humanity. This is the story of these individuals. This is the story of these marvels. World War II. The Marvels were maligned as monsters as often as they were lionized as heroes. Notable among their colorful, plentiful ranks were Namor the Submariner, who was torn between his mother's subaquatic Atlantean kingdom and his father's America, but found little acceptance in either world, and Jim Hammond, the android Human Torch, who strove to find inner humanity despite his artificial, scientific origins. The era's greatest champion, Captain America, the weak and frail Steve Rogers, before the army made him a super soldier, fought against those who threatened freedom alongside his partner, James Bucky Barnes. After the war's end, the Marvels gradually fell from the public eye and memory. That all changed when cosmic radiation transformed 4 explorers into the first of many new superhumans to capture humanity's attention. Super genius Reed Richards gained amazing elasticity and took the name Mr. Fantastic. Susan Storm, his girlfriend, became the Invisible Girl, later learning to control her abilities to create powerful force fields. Susan's younger brother, Johnny Storm, became a modern-day Human Torch, and Richard's best friend, Ben Grimm, became the grotesque, Rocky Thing. Saving the world from the Mole Man's monsters and invading Skrull aliens, and refusing to hide their identities as the Marvels of yesteryear had. This Fantastic Four soon were followed by a new generation of costumed heroes. Not long after, Johnny Storm discovered and reawakened Namor, who had long wandered the surface world after an attack from his father's enemy Paul Destino, aka Destiny, left him amnesiac, suffering from an oxygen imbalance after decades on land. Namor declared war against the surface world, intending to take the Invisible Girl as his bride. The Fantastic Four defeated Namor, sending him back to the oceans. Though he soon located his lost Atlantean people, Namor's bitter feelings toward the surface world and passion for Sue Storm endured. The Fantastic Four's most implacable foe rose from Richards and Grimm's college years. The brilliant Victor Von Doom, an orphaned gypsy from the European nation of Latveria, planned to use his genius and knowledge of sorcery to unlock the secrets of life and death. When he ignored warnings from classmate Richards, who had discovered flaws in Von Doom's theories, an explosive accident left Von Doom scarred and angry. Outfitted in high-tech armor and weaponry as Dr. Doom, Von Doom has frequently sought revenge on Richards, whom he blamed for his own failures. Von Doom soon conquered his homeland, replacing the old monarchy with his own totalitarian dictatorship, using his inventions to quash detractors and also enrich the lives of common Latverians. Von Doom became beloved and feared by his people as the outside world learned to hate him. Now a world leader, Von Doom came to believe himself best suited to solving the world's problems, whether it wanted this or not. In the southwestern United States, meek scientist Bruce Banner devoted his genius to designing the gamma bomb, later saving teenager Rick Jones from the test explosion and unwittingly exposing himself to gamma radiation. Transforming into the Hulk, a massively strong creature guided by Banner's repressed emotions and insecurities, Banner became hunted by the military, led by General Thunderbolt Ross, father of Banner's girlfriend, Betty. Seeking only to be left alone, the Hulk, who soon turned green, often fought those who would threaten the same civilization that had rejected him. In New York City, while watching a scientific experiment, teenage wallflower Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider. Discovering he had gained spider-like powers allowing him to climb walls and had the proportionate strength of a spider. Parker created mechanical web shooters and embarked on a career in show business as Spider-Man, not yet realizing that with great power comes with great responsibility. Spider-Man callously allowed a thief to escape him, only for that same thief to later kill his Uncle Ben. Humbled, Spider-Man devoted himself to using his abilities in the protection of others, but many saw his masked vigilantism as a threat, including Daily Bugle publisher J. Jonah Jameson, who dedicated the newspaper to destroying Spider-Man's reputation. Not realizing Parker, the Bugle's Spider-Man photographer, was secretly the web-slinger himself. Around this time, Dr. Donald Blake believed himself nothing more than a normal, if physically impaired, physician, never realizing he was the Asgardian god of thunder, Thor, who had been banished to Earth after his arrogance angered Asgardian All-Father Odin. Blake was soon led to his hidden hammer, Mjolnir, which reawakened his godhood, allowing him to fight aliens, giants, trolls, and the ever-present machinations of his resentful adopted brother Loki, god of mischief. Elsewhere, unassuming scientist Henry Pym discovered subatomic particles that let him shrink anything to the size of insects. Combining these Pym particles with technology that allowed him to communicate with ants, he became the heroic Ant-Man. A short time later, Pym transformed the energetic Janet Van Dyne into the similarly shrinking, winsome, winged Wasp. Together, they fought crime and earned fame. Pym soon learned to use the particles to enlarge items and subsequently became Giant Man. Inventor and wealthy industrialist Tony Stark was critically wounded and captured while demonstrating weapons technology overseas. A fellow captive, Yinsen, helped him create a suit of armor to save Stark from his wounds and overpower their captors. Although Yinsen died, the suit allowed Stark to escape. Found and returned home by military pilot James Rhodes, Stark improved the armor and used it to masquerade as his own bodyguard, Iron Man. While these new heroes arose, Dr. Stephen Strange continued to secretly protect the Earth as he had done for years. Once a respected but conceited surgeon, a car accident destroyed his career and forced him to reevaluate his life. Discovering a hidden Himalayan temple, Strange became a disciple of mystic leader the Ancient One, alongside other pupils like Baron Mordo. When these new heroes gained public attention, Strange began operating more publicly as well. Dr. Strange teamed with other heroes such as Spider-Man and the Sentry and battled incredible threats like the Dread Dormammu and Loki. Seeking to protect a growing population of mutants, telepathic Charles Xavier gathered and trained young mutants in his Westchester, New York mansion to become the X-Men and use their inherent powers to protect a world that feared and hated them for simply being born different. His first class included the stoic, optic blast-firing Scott "Slim" Summers Cyclops, the intelligent and agile Hank McCoy Beast, the affluent and high-flying Warren Worthington III Angel, the fun-loving Bobby Drake Iceman, and the telepathic and telekinetic Jean Grey Marvel Girl. The team made its public debut defeating Xavier's former friend turned bitter rival, Magneto, who felt mutants should dominate the weaker humanity. Loki soon tricked Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, and the Wasp into believing the Hulk was a true menace, and they banded together to capture him. After learning of Loki's deception, this group teamed with the Hulk in defeating Loki and then decided to stay together as the Avengers. The volatile mixture of gods, monsters, playboys, and scientists caused internal clashes, but didn't prevent them from serving mankind. Not long after the Hulk quit, the Avengers found the perfect candidate to fill his shoes. Lost for decades in the icy Atlantic Ocean, Captain America's frozen body was discovered and revived by the Avengers. A man out of time, the Sentinel of Liberty, initially had trouble adjusting to life in the modern age. Unaware Bucky was similarly recovered by Russians and forced to become a Soviet agent. Captain America mourned the loss of his friend, sometimes even mistaking others for the missing Bucky. Cap was swiftly accepted into the Avengers and later retroactively declared a founding member in the team's charter. The accident that blinded Matt Murdock as a child greatly enhanced his remaining senses and gave him a radar sense that compensated for his lack of sight. A promise to his boxer father kept Murdock from physical violence and allowed him to eventually become an attorney. When his father was murdered, Matt joined the growing ranks of costumed marvels by using his abilities as Daredevil, going to great lengths to bring those who escaped the law to justice. Spider-Man faced many superpowered foes, but none more diabolical than the Green Goblin. Secretly, Norman Osborn, father of Peter Parker's friend Harry, the Green Goblin sought to rule the criminal underworld. Spider-Man was shocked to learn his personal connection to the Goblin. When Norman Osborn was struck with temporary memory loss, Peter covered up his enemy's illicit history so the Osborns could return to a normal family life. But the Green Goblin would never stay dormant for long. Spider-Man's life grew even more dangerous when several of his foes, including scientific mastermind Dr. Octopus, aerial thief the Vulture, the malleable Sandman, and ruthless Hunter Craven, banded together as the Sinister Six to attack him. Though Spider-Man stopped them, the villains continued plaguing him for years, individually and in groups, often threatening Spidey's friends and family in their various bids for revenge for defeats at his hands. Former Nazi scientist Heinrich Zemo, angered to see his enemy Captain America had returned, formed the Masters of Evil by uniting many of the Avengers' individual foes: corrupt physicist Radioactive Man, scientific spy Black Knight, and weapons manufacturer Melter. Though Baron Zemo's team was defeated, they returned later to plague the Avengers, joined by exiled Asgardians the Enchantress and Executioner. Ultimately, Zemo's obsession was his downfall, as he caused his own death while fighting Captain America. As the original Avengers moved on to other concerns, Captain America welcomed reformed villains to the team. The Archer Hawkeye, super-fast Quicksilver, and the magically inclined Scarlet Witch formed what became known as Cap's Kooky Quartet. Henry Pym, now calling himself Goliath, soon rejoined the team. This proved to be the first of many roster changes for the Avengers through the years. Under the leadership of World War II veteran Nick Fury, still young thanks to Infinity Formula treatments, Worldwide Intelligence and Peacekeeping Organization SHIELD, Supreme Headquarters, International Espionage, Law Enforcement Division, battled terrorist organizations like Hydra while protecting civilians from the Marvel's battles. Fury rapidly became the go-to man for governments and heroes alike when trouble seemed overwhelming. Though the X-Men had achieved many successes saving all humanity, their hated status as mutants left them the target of great prejudice and suspicion. Inventor Bolivar Trask developed the giant robot Sentinels to hunt and capture mutants. Though the Sentinels rebelled against him and had to be stopped by the X-Men, later models, developed by Bolivar's son, Larry Trask, scientist Stephen Lang, and others, soon came to be used by private organizations and governments alike, preferring to remain sequestered in their hidden city of Attilan. The Inhumans were the result of experiments performed on primitive humanity millennia ago by the extraterrestrial Kree. After being sent as an emissary to study humanity, royal family member Medusa eventually befriended the Fantastic Four, who became staunch allies to the Inhumans. Though they tried to remain hidden, it wasn't long before the world learned of the Inhumans' existence, drawing them into repeated political and physical conflicts. When public darlings Reed Richards and Sue Storm planned to marry at the Fantastic Four's Baxter Building headquarters, dozens of heroes came to support them, while Dr. Doom used technology to manipulate the emotions of numerous villains, provoking them to attack the FF. Their fellow heroes came to the rescue, but the ensuing fights severely disrupted New York City. Despite my oath of non-interference, I guided Richards toward the subatomic time displacer, a powerful device that could send the villains away through time and ensure most would never remember the Titanic battle. I interceded again to warn of the coming of Galactus, a survivor from the pre-Big Bang universe who drew sustenance from life-giving planets. His herald, the Silver Surfer, guided him to Earth, and I knew its heroes could not defeat him. The Thing's girlfriend, blind sculptress Alicia Masters, encountered the Surfer, awakening emotions he had forgotten existed and leading him to deny his master on behalf of humanity. As this happened, I led the Human Torch to the ultimate nullifier, a reality-ending device even Galactus feared. Desiring a calmer meal, Galactus agreed to spare the planet, exiling the Surfer to Earth as he departed. T'Chaka, the former king of the reclusive African nation of Wakanda, had been murdered years earlier by the unscrupulous scientist Ulysses Klaue. T'Chaka's son, T'Challa, spent his formative years physically training himself and developing Wakandan technology to protect his nation from outsiders. He eventually claimed the title and name of the Black Panther, Wakanda's ruler and protector. After inviting the Fantastic Four to visit, the Panther teamed with them in battling Klaue, who had used vibranium, a rare vibration-absorbing material found in Wakanda, to turn himself into a master of sound. Meanwhile, Spider-Man found his personal life complicated by two beautiful college classmates. Peter Parker had long dreamed about the platinum blonde Gwen Stacy, but Peter's Aunt May encouraged her reluctant nephew to go on a blind date with neighbor Mary Jane Watson. Torn between the two, Peter eventually focused his attention on Gwen, hoping their relationship would last forever. As Earth's heroes had repeatedly defeated alien invaders, galactic empires grew increasingly interested in the planet. Captain Mar-Vell of the Kree had earned a reputation in his people's perennial war against the shape-shifting Skrulls. But when he was assigned to spy on humanity, he found himself sympathizing with Earthlings. Betraying his own people to protect the planet, Mar-Vell, known as Captain Marvel on Earth, would become one of the galaxy's most respected heroes. Reed and Sue Richards soon welcomed their first child, Franklin Benjamin Richards. Franklin's mutant abilities manifested within a few years, making his parents aware their son was one of the most powerful individuals in the universe. The Avengers saved Earth again when the Kree-Skrull War approached its solar system. The Avengers and Captain Mar-Vell battled both sides in this world-endangering conflict, but Avengers ally Rick Jones ended the threat when the Kree's supreme intelligence unlocked within him the full potential of the human mind. Both races were driven back by his phenomenal destiny force. As more heroes walked the Earth, so did more beings most would call monstrous. When stunt biker Johnny Blaze sold his soul to the devil to save the life of a beloved father figure, he was bonded with the demon Zarathos and became the vengeance-seeking Ghost Rider. Scientist-turned-adventurer Ted Sallis injected himself with an experimental recreation of the super soldier serum that had empowered Captain America to save it from thieves, only to find it mixed poorly with mystically charged Floridian swamp waters, transforming him into the macabre Man-Thing. At 18, Jack Russell discovered a family curse would forever make him a werewolf by night. Hoping to cure himself of a debilitating blood disease, Dr. Michael Morbius instead changed himself into a blood-craving living vampire that struggled against his urges. Peter Parker's difficulties didn't all stem from being Spider-Man. His roommate and best friend, Harry Osborn, became addicted to drugs. Although the pity he felt for his son would bury Norman Osborn's evil Green Goblin persona for a time, Harry's fragile mental state eventually created a Green Goblin persona of his own. Actual horror's long-thought legend proved to be real when Frankenstein's monster and the vampire Lord Dracula both made their presence known in the modern world. The monster would prove an ally to mankind at times. Dracula would be a constant threat, keeping vampire hunters like Quincy Harker and Blade busy for many years. Although most team-ups between the Marvels were fleeting, some led to the formation of teams, and some created strong friendships and partnerships, notably Captain America and the Falcon, Daredevil and the Black Widow, and Hawkeye and the time-displaced Two-Gun Kid. Trying to rid himself of his spider powers, Peter Parker brewed a chemical that instead gave him 4 extra arms. Spider-Man battled 2 scientists-turned-monsters, the living vampire Morbius and the Lizard, before Parker and the Lizard, retaining the mind of Dr. Kurt Connors, found a way to reverse the hero's multi-armed condition. Unlikely allies, Doctor Strange, the Hulk and Submariner came together to fight the alien Yandroth, and then chose to form a loose alliance that would become known as the Defenders. This powerful non-team would grow quickly to include the Silver Surfer, the Asgardian Valkyrie, possessing the body of human Barbara Norris, reformed criminal Nighthawk, and energetic former model Hellcat, among many others. Serving time for a crime he didn't commit, Carl Lucas was promised early release in exchange for undergoing an experimental treatment that left him superhumanly strong and bulletproof. Moving to New York, he opened an office and offered his services as Luke Cage, hero for hire. Despite criticism from other heroes for charging for his heroics, Cage quickly became known for doing the right thing when someone really needed help. Creating one of Earth's strangest marvels, the High Evolutionary evolved, the artificial being known as him, into Adam Warlock. Warlock spent most of his early career on the High Evolutionary's counter-Earth, a perfect duplicate of the Earth in orbit on the opposite side of the Sun. In later years, Warlock's involvement with the true Earth would be legendary. Howard the Duck was trapped in a world he never made, brought to Earth from a planet of anthropomorphic animals during a reality warp caused by the demon Thog. Howard found himself stuck in Cleveland, Ohio, taking a series of menial jobs and sharing an apartment with the beautiful Beverly Switzler, who became his closest friend. But his attempts at a normal life as a duck in a human world were often interrupted by strange enemies like Dr. Bong, the Kidney Lady, the Space Turnip, and Hell Cow. Never a stranger to hardship, Spider-Man again would face tragedy when the Green Goblin, aware of his true identity, struck at him through those he loved. He kidnapped Parker's girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, and lured the hero to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. During the battle, the Goblin knocked Gwen off the bridge. Trying to save her, Spider-Man caught her boot with a web line. But when he pulled her to the top, she was dead, her neck broken from the sudden stop. Spider-Man swore revenge on the Green Goblin even as he mourned the loss of his first true love. Spider-Man tracked the Goblin to a warehouse where he beat him mercilessly but could not bring himself to kill him. The Goblin opportunistically tried to impale Spider-Man with his remote-controlled Goblin glider from behind, but the web-slinger ducked in time to avoid the glider, which impaled the Goblin instead. Osborn secretly survived, while Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man himself were later cloned by the Jackal as part of a plot against Spider-Man. Both clones soon departed to make new lives for themselves. Though there had long been heroes who relied more on skill than powers, an uprising of those with mastery in the martial arts began. Among these deadly hands were Kung Fu expert Shang-Chi, the mystic amulet-empowered White Tiger, and Danny Rand, an orphan who gained the power of the Iron Fist while living in the extra-dimensional city of Kunlun. His family killed after witnessing a mob hit, ex-Marine Frank Castle became a hardened vigilante, unleashing lethal justice on criminals. Though challenged by more idealistic heroes such as Spider-Man and Captain America, Punisher would continue to dispense his brand of justice on the underworld, sometimes even reluctantly at the Marvel sides. While in the Canadian wilderness, the Hulk encountered the ferocious Wolverine, a mutant operative generations older than he looked, thanks to a mutant healing factor, whose unbreakable adamantium claws and skeleton and raw fighting prowess nearly made up for his comparative lack of strength while fighting the Green Giant. In Europe, Brian Braddock was offered a choice between the Sword of Might and the Amulet of Right by omniversal guardians Merlin and Roma. His choice of the amulet turned him into Captain Britain, who would become the UK's most notable hero. When the X-Men disappeared on a mission, Professor Xavier selected a new group of mutants from around the world, including the Canadian Wolverine, Banshee from Ireland, Japan's Sunfire, Storm from Kenya, the Russian Colossus, and Germany's Nightcrawler. This new group rescued the original team from the living island Krakoa. The original X-Men retired in deference to the newcomers, with the exception of Cyclops, who would continue as team leader. The close-knit squad of schoolmates gave way to a less agreeable group with little in common, but they would go on to become an effective fighting force and surrogate family. But these new X-Men would not be strangers to tragedy. After they stopped the diabolical Count Nefaria and the criminal Ani-Men from taking over the NORAD base in Colorado, Thunderbird clung to Nefaria's jetcraft to prevent his escape. Thunderbird's repeated attacks caused the plane to explode, killing the X-Man. This early loss would be the first of many hardships. Archaeologist Daniel Damian and his daughter Margot discovered assistant Ike Harris was really a Caris, a member of the ancient race of Eternals. The Eternals had secretly lived alongside humanity since the dawn of man, occasionally mistaken for mythological gods. They would increasingly interact with Earth's superhumans as time went on. In an alternate future, when the Earth fell under invading alien Badoon, several beings joined forces as the Guardians of the Galaxy. Members included Earth astronaut Vance Astro, Jupiter's Charlie 27, Mercurian Nikki, Pluto's Martin X, Centauri Therfor's Yondu, and Arcturus's Starhawk, who shared physical space with his adoptive sister, Aleda. These future heroes would make many visits to the modern era, classified as Reality 616, even joining the Avengers. Kept in suspended animation for decades after deadly radiation exposure and imbued with spider traits by the High Evolutionary to save her life, Jessica Drew awoke with spider-like powers. Briefly working with the subversive Hydra, she soon rebelled against them and became Spider-Woman. Former NASA security chief and hopeful reporter Carol Danvers had long been a friend and ally of Captain Marvel. But after being caught in the blast of an exploding alien Kree device, she gained superhuman strength, flight, and a mysterious precognitive seventh sense, and more, using them all as Ms. Marvel. Joan Grey, the X-Men's former Marvel girl, sacrificed herself to save the X-Men by piloting a damaged space shuttle through massive radiation while the team returned from an orbiting space station. When the shuttle crashed in New York's Jamaica Bay, a massively powerful John rose from the waters claiming to be the Phoenix. Unknown to all, the real John lay in suspended animation at the bottom of the bay, while the cosmic Phoenix Force healed John's wounds and replicated her. A duplication so thorough, the Force came to think it actually was Jean. When near-omnipotent Michael Korvac came back from the future to recreate Earth as a utopia, the Avengers stood in his way. The Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy battled long and hard against the increasingly powerful villain, but he struck them down one by one with seeming ease. He only met defeat when his lover, Karina, daughter of the Elder of the Universe named the Collector, began to doubt his motives. Korvac seemingly committed suicide, reviving the heroes he had killed as he did so in a final act of nobility. When no-nonsense government agent Henry Gyrich was chosen as the Avengers' liaison, he revoked their priority status, making it difficult for them to function. Deciding the team was too large, he not only mandated a reduction to 7 active members, but also forced the addition of the Falcon for diversity. Gyrich's interference stifled the group until he was replaced by the less invasive Raymond Sikorsky. Founded by the Canadian government's Department H and led by Vindicator, later Guardian, Alpha Flight included the massive Sasquatch, Mystic Shaman, Inuit goddess Snowbird, and super speedster twins Aurora and Northstar. The team's first contact with the X-Men occurred when Alpha Flight was ordered to bring Wolverine back to Canada. After hostilities ended, the two squads became allies. Despite soon being disbanded by the Canadian government, Alpha Flight continued as an independent group and became allies of other worldwide heroes. During a visit from her cousin, Bruce Banner, attorney Jennifer Walters was wounded in a mob-related shooting. Desperate to save her life, Banner was forced to give her a transfusion of his own gamma-irradiated blood, which turned Walters into a 6'7", 700-pound She-Hulk. Unlike Banner, Walters eventually retained her own personality when transformed, allowing her to later become a member of the Avengers and Fantastic Four. As urban brawler Luke Cage struggled to make ends meet as a hero for hire, martial artist Danny Rand was having trouble finding his place in society after being raised in Kunlun's dimension. Initially an odd pairing, the two became one of the Marvel's longest and most loyal partnerships. Power Man and Iron Fist, heroes for hire. As teenage Kitty Pryde's mutant power to phase through solid objects manifested, she was contacted by Charles Xavier and Emma Frost with offers to attend their exclusive schools. Pryde was unaware Frost was the White Queen of the secret inner circle of the Hellfire Club, a group dedicated to amassing power in any way possible. When the X-Men and the Hellfire Club did battle, Pryde learned the White Queen's true motives and aided the X-Men against her. Meanwhile, Cyclops, Phoenix, and Nightcrawler located another mutant, disco performer Allison Blair, the Dazzler, who could convert sound into light. Dazzler helped Kitty and the X-Men rescue teammates captured by the Hellfire Club, but Dazzler turned down X-Men membership to concentrate on her career. Kitty, however, eagerly joined the team and attended Xavier's school. Alone, Iron Man faced the Mandarin, the Crimson Dynamo, and the Giant Ultimo. As an Avenger, he battled Ultron, Kang the Conqueror, and the Masters of Evil. But the foe that came closest to taking him down was his own addiction to alcohol. He would overcome his struggle, but his demon in a bottle would continue to haunt him for years. Struggling to control the intense passions accompanying the human experience, the Phoenix fell prey to the illusionist mastermind's manipulations on behalf of the Hellfire Club. With the primal urges of the Phoenix Force unleashed by Mastermind's actions, it became the malevolent Dark Phoenix. After attacking the X-Men, Dark Phoenix killed billions when it consumed the Dabari Star. With the sprawling Shi'ar Empire having judged Phoenix a universal threat that needed to be executed, their superpowered Imperial Guard battled the X-Men, who fought to protect what they thought to be Jean Grey. Realizing it could not control itself, the Phoenix committed suicide using an energy cannon to discorporate its mortal shell. The X-Men, unaware of the true June's survival, mourned the loss of a friend, teammate, and loved one. After Captain America stopped a terrorist attack, new Populist Party convention manager Sam Underwood tried convincing him to run for president. Ultimately, Cap turned down the nomination, believing he could better serve the American dream than the American reality. When the X-Men of an alternate Earth failed to prevent the assassination of anti-mutant activist Senior Robert Kelly, humanity's fear of mutants turned to outright hatred, and mutants were largely eliminated by Sentinels. A group of renegade X-Men used Rachel Summers' powers to switch the consciousness of an adult Kate Pryde with her teenage counterpart Kitty Pryde. Unaware she had traveled to the Earth of reality, 616 Earth, instead of her own past. Kate Pryde and the X-Men prevented Kelly's assassination at the hands of Mystique's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Summers would eventually come to this Earth herself and become a member of the X-Men. After attacking an enemy who was ending hostilities, Henry Pym, now called Yellow Jacket, was placed on Avengers probation. Suffering a nervous breakdown, he created a robot to attack the Avengers, intending to defeat it and redeem himself. This plan instead resulted in the increasingly unstable Pym leaving the Avengers in disgrace and the Wasp divorcing him. Capitalizing on this, Pym's foe, Egghead, framed Pym for crimes Egghead committed. But hitting rock bottom gave Pym new clarity. He defeated Egghead, proved his innocence, then retired from superheroics for a time to return to scientific research. After Korvac slew the Collector, fellow Elder Grandmaster challenged Death to a game, with the Collector's resurrection as his prize. Each selected 12 of Earth's marvels as pawns and dispatched teams of 3 to fight for possession of a section of the Golden Globe of Life. With the Grandmaster victorious, Death revealed a comparable life force had to be exchanged to revive the Collector, and the Grandmaster sacrificed himself for his brethren. The Collector and a revived Grandmaster eventually conspired against Death. The Grandmaster was cast out of Death's realm, and the Elders were condemned to eternal life, which had been the Grandmaster's ultimate goal. After Korvac slew the Collector, fellow Elder Grandmaster challenged Death to a game, with the Collector's resurrection as his prize. Each selected 12 of Earth's marvels as pawns and dispatched teams of 3 to fight for possession of a section of the Golden Globe of Life. With the Grandmaster victorious, Death revealed a comparable life force had to be exchanged to revive the Collector, and the Grandmaster sacrificed himself for his brethren. The Collector and a revived Grandmaster eventually conspired against Death. The Grandmaster was cast out of Death's realm, and the Elders were condemned to eternal life, which had been the Grandmaster's ultimate goal. When Captain Marvel learned he had cancer, several of Earth's scientific marvels combined efforts with the Titanian Eternal Mentor to find a cure. But the photonic energy of Marvel's negabands mutated the cancer and blocked attempts to isolate it, making a cure impossible. Friends and foes from across the galaxies paid their respects before Marvel succumbed to his disease. When Captain Marvel learned he had cancer, several of Earth's scientific marvels combined efforts with the Titanian Eternal Mentor to find a cure. But the photonic energy of Marvel's negabands mutated the cancer and blocked attempts to isolate it, making a cure impossible. Friends and foes from across the galaxies paid their respects before Marvel succumbed to his disease, continuing his mission to train mutants in the use of their powers. Xavier gathered a new group of wards, the New Mutants, but intended for them to be students rather than combatants like the X-Men. Early class members included the rocket-powered Cannonball, illusion-casting Psyche, super-strong Sunspot, mental possessor Karma, and the lupine-transforming Wolfsbane. After Wolverine killed his lover Mariko's crime lord father, she declared him her champion and agreed to marry him. However, controlled by the mentalist mastermind, Mariko rejected Wolverine at the altar. Later freed, a shameful Mariko was fatally poisoned by a family enemy while trying to restore her honor, forcing a reluctant and horrified Wolverine to mercy kill her. Obsessed with obtaining power, fashion mogul Roderick Kingsley came into possession of Norman Osborn's Green Goblin equipment and created a new identity for himself as the Hobgoblin. He remained a near-constant thorn in Spider-Man's side until, finally tiring of his masked identity, he framed Daily Bugle reporter Ned Leeds as the Hobgoblin. After the Hobgoblin's enemies killed Leeds, Kingsley secretly retired to the Caribbean. After meeting X-Man Kitty Pryde in outer space, Flock member Lockheed the Dragon came to Earth and became her inseparable friend and a staunch X-Men ally. A freak accident aboard a Roxxon-owned oil rig gave New Orleans police officer Monica Rambeau the power to convert her body to pure energy. Taking on the name Captain Marvel, Rambeau encountered and fought alongside Spider-Man before eventually joining the Avengers. When Tony Stark turned to alcohol again, longtime friend and pilot James Rhodes took over the Iron Man identity. Rhodes battled Iron Man foes old and new, while Stark struggled with his alcoholism. While Captain America was missing following World War II, the Cap and Bucky roles were taken up by William Burnside and Jack Monroe, but both were placed in suspended animation by the government when they became mentally unstable. Revived years later, Monroe eventually adopted the identity of Nomad and became Captain America's partner for a time before embarking on a solo career. After battling Thor, alien Corbinite Beta Ray Bill took Thor's sacred hammer Mjolnir as his own, which transformed him into an alien version of the Thunder God. After Bill proved himself worthy of Thor's power, All-Father Odin had Asgardian weaponer Atri fashion a new hammer for Bill called Stormbreaker and imbued it with similar powers. Thor and Bill would form a unique brotherhood and friendship that continues to this day. After much time witnessing Earth through a tiny hole created by the accident that made Owen Reese the Molecule Man, the enigmatic force known as the Beyonder brought the Earth's mightiest heroes and villains together on a planet of his creation called Battleworld, where he offered them all they desired if they would slay their enemies. Sides were quickly chosen, and numerous battles waged across this world. Their time on Battleworld changed many heroes, including Spider-Man, who sought to replace his battle-torn costume, but instead unknowingly released an alien symbiote that would attempt to bond with him permanently after he returned to Earth. Dr. Doom eventually usurped the Beyonder's power, healed his own face, and slew the heroes. But betrayed by self-doubt, Doom's subconscious helped resurrect the heroes, who staged an all-out assault on the Latverian monarch. During this battle, the Beyonder forcibly took back his power and disappeared. The heroes and villains returned to Earth shortly after, with the exception of the Thing, who remained on Battleworld for a time because he was able to assume human form there. She-Hulk took his place with the Fantastic Four. Seeking to understand humanity and its desires, the Beyonder came to Earth and took human form. His godlike power allowed him to restructure reality on a whim, and mortals and cosmic beings alike challenged him as a universal threat. The Molecule Man eventually defeated him, and the Beyonder's power returned to his pocket realm, where it created a new universe he controlled. Dr. Doom and members of the Fantastic Four later traveled to this universe and learned the Beyonder was a nascent cosmic cube, a human-created device that granted its wielder any wish. Dr. James Power's attempt at matter-antimatter conversion drew the attention of alien chameleon Alefire Whitemane, whose homeworld had been destroyed by a similar process. When the Snarks, the chameleon's rivals, attempted to capture Power and his wife, Whitemane saved their children, though he was mortally wounded. Before he died, Whitemane divided his own powers among Alex, Julie, Jack, and Katie, who used their new abilities to stop the Snarks. As Power Pack, the children became some of the youngest Marvels. Seeking to expand Avengers operations while his programming was compromised, the android Vision tasked Hawkeye with assembling a group on the West Coast. Joining Hawkeye as West Coast Avengers were his wife, Mockingbird, the feline Tigra, the James Rhodes Iron Man, and Wonder Man. The heroes soon defeated powerful villain Graviton, impressing their East Coast counterparts. Bruce Banner's tenuous hold over his savage alter ego began to rapidly fail, leaving the monster without any humanity. Many heroes opposed the rampaging mindless Hulk until Doctor Strange exiled him for a time to a dimensional crossroads, where he hoped the instinctive monster could find a world in which he would gain some semblance of peace. Determined to die in battle with his greatest enemy, the rapidly aging Red Skull had Captain America poisoned with chemicals that aged him as well. Yet it was old age that finally killed the Skull. But mad scientist Arnim Zola created a Captain America clone and infused it with the Skull's consciousness. This reinvigorated Skull resumed his vendetta against Captain America. The Vision and Scarlet Witch left the Avengers after the team stopped the Vision's well-intentioned plan to take over the world's computers to become a benevolent global dictator. Shortly after, through a spell cast by the Witch, the two conceived and gave birth to twins, William and Thomas, who were unknowingly shards of the then fragmented essence of Hell Lord Mephisto. The subatomic Psycho Man's machinations twisted Susan Richards into Malice, mistress of hate, who nearly destroyed the rest of the Fantastic Four before Reed Richards broke through to her. After confronting Psycho Man, Sue decided she was no longer the naive girl who helped found the Fantastic Four, changing her code name to Invisible Woman. After taking over Stark International, while Tony Stark struggled with his alcoholism, Obadiah Stane committed suicide rather than face defeat at a sober Stark's hands. Stark eventually regained his fortune and began a new business venture on the West Coast called Stark Enterprises. Now renouncing his terrorist ways, Magneto turned himself over to the World Court to be tried for his past crimes. An attack by the Strucker twins interrupted the trial. Before it could be resumed, a gravely wounded Xavier made Magneto promise to safeguard and teach the New Mutants when Xavier departed for Shi'ar space for treatment. Cyclops left the X-Men, but soon formed X-Factor with his original teammates, including a miraculously revived Jean Grey. Learning Daredevil's identity, the Kingpin began systematically tearing down his life by having Murdoch's law license revoked, his assets frozen, and his apartment building destroyed. After Kingpin failed to kill him, Daredevil resumed his role as Hell's Kitchen's protector, due partly to the help of Sister Maggie, his long-lost mother. Gary Gilbert, formerly known as Firebrand, organized a meeting of villains in Ohio at an establishment called The Bar with No Name to devise a plan to deal with Scourge, an assassin murdering supervillains. Unaware the bartender there was actually Scourge, who slaughtered most of the attendees. The Olympian Hercules and loyal Avengers butler Edwin Jarvis were nearly killed when the Masters of Evil, gathered by Helmut Zemo, son of Heinrich, laid siege to Avengers Mansion, which was destroyed in the process. Captain America rallied several heroes to defeat the Masters in a battle culminating with Zemo's apparent death. Seeking to rid mutant kind of loose ends, mad geneticist Mr. Sinister sent his marauders to massacre the Morlocks living beneath New York City. During various confrontations, the marauders gravely wounded X-Men Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, now called Shadowcat, and Colossus. X-Factor's Angel later required the amputation of his destroyed wings. Refusing orders to report directly to the U.S. government, Steve Rogers resigned as Captain America. The role was given to an eager John Walker, the Super Patriot. Taking the costumed identity of the Captain, Rogers battled an increasingly unstable Walker and discovered the Red Skull had orchestrated these events. An ensuing battle ended with the Skull's defeat and Rogers' reinstatement as Captain America. Believing himself dishonored from repeated defeats by Spider-Man, Kraven the Hunter buried the hero alive. Posing as Spider-Man, Kraven defeated a foe Spider-Man could not, Vermin. After Spider-Man freed himself, Kraven took his own life, satisfied his honor had been restored. Resurrected by the goddess Roma after sacrificing their lives to defeat the demonic adversary, the X-Men secretly resumed their operations. During a simultaneous battle against Apocalypse, X-Factor learned his horseman death was Angel, his psyche twisted by Apocalypse's experiments that left him with razor-sharp metallic wings. However, Angel joined X-Factor against Apocalypse and rejoined the team as Archangel. Elsewhere, during a battle with anti-mutant organization The Right, the New Mutant Cypher was shot and killed, leaving the students devastated. When Tony Stark discovered his Iron Man technology was being used without his consent, he began a one-man crusade to destroy it, bringing him into conflict with hero and villain alike. After Iron Man was branded an outlaw and expelled from the Avengers, Stark perpetuated a ruse that Iron Man was a hired employee and soon faked this employee's death. Stark later resumed his Iron Man role, but publicly announced it was a new employee in the armor. Following a battle with his longtime foe, the leader, a more ruthless gray-skinned Hulk, believed dead, began working for Las Vegas crime lord Michael Berenghetti as the enforcer Mr. Fix-It. Similarly, Wolverine, thought dead, returned to the island nation of Madripoor and re-established his old identity of Patch. Rejected by Spider-Man, the alien symbiote costume found a new host in disgruntled former Daily Globe reporter Eddie Brock, who blamed the hero for his woes. The bonded pair became the ruthless Venom and stalked Spider-Man for months before finally becoming one of his most consistent and deadly foes. Initially drawn together by the goddess Roma, Captain Britain, his girlfriend Megan, and former X-Men Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, and Rachel Summers, now possessed by the Phoenix Force, remained together as Excalibur, the British counterpart to the X-Men. When a group of misfit heroes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, began using the name Great Lakes Avengers without authorization, they drew the attention of Avenger Hawkeye, who attempted to mold the group into a team worthy of the name. After Hawkeye returned to the Avengers, the GLA stayed together as the Midwest's protectors. Seeking to rule Earth, the Elder God set worked through the deviant priest Gar, the Lemurian Lyra, and others to recreate his serpent crown. While retrieving various mystic artifacts, Gar helped foster conflicts between the surface world and Atlantis, bringing about casualties that served as sacrifices to Set, and gathered 7 superheroines to serve as Set's brides. Earth's heroes rallied to stop Gar and Set. To destroy the Avengers, Loki anonymously gathered 6 criminal masterminds as prime movers in a scheme to confront each other's enemies, either directly or through lesser superhuman criminals. After the ensuing mass chaos of battling unfamiliar foes, Thor and the Avengers deduced Loki's involvement and defeated him. Many new superhumans soon emerged, including the Kurt Gerhard Fool Killer, the nanotechnology-empowered Nightwatch, a new Deathlock cyborg, Mar-Vell's cloned son Genus, the new Captain Marvel, the deviant Black Wolf, the extra-dimensional Mindscape alien Sleepwalker, and the Dimension X-powered cartoonish Slapstick. The supernatural was not peaceful during this time, prompting Danny Ketch's rise as a new Ghost Rider and previous Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze to become active once more. Among those opposing supernatural threats were Doctor Strange, Morbius, and the investigative Night Stalkers, who often joined forces as the Midnight Suns. Brought together during a battle against rampaging extraterrestrial Terrax, 6 teenage heroes founded the New Warriors, initially comprised of Night Thrasher, Nova, Speedball, Namorita, Marvel Boy, and Firestar. The team soon came to include Silhouette, Rage, and other young, idealistic superhumans who became a surrogate family for one another through trials and happy times. Mutant-hating cyborg. Cameron Hodge took control of the island nation of Genosha, using its resources and mutant slave race to attack the X-Men, X-Factor, and New Mutants. Hodge was defeated, and the world learned the X-Men were still alive. During the battle, the New Mutants Warlock was believed killed. Not long after, X-Factor's members rejoined the X-Men, led by a returned Professor X, who divided the group into 2 separate strike teams. X-Factor was then reborn as superhuman government agents, headed by former X-Man Havoc. Now, under the leadership of time-traveling Cable, secretly the X-Man Cyclops' son, the New Mutants became X-Force, a paramilitary squad trained to eliminate threats to mutant kind. X-Force's violent approach often brought them into conflict with more pacifist mutant teams. To impress his beloved Death, nihilist Thanos gathered the cosmic Infinity Gems, which granted him incalculable power that he used to obliterate half the universe's population. Led by Adam Warlock, Earth's heroes were ultimately instrumental in seizing the gems from Thanos and undoing what he had wrought. With the Infinity Gems in his possession, Adam Warlock purged his soul of good and evil, which became the Magus and the Goddess, respectively. Pursuing infinite power, the Magus created dark doppelgangers of Earth's heroes and sought the Infinity Gems in a series of battles that became known as the Infinity War. Ultimately, Adam Warlock regained the gems and banished the Magus to the confines of the Soul Gem. The goddess plotted to achieve universal rapture via the extinction of all life, turning many of Earth's heroes to her side through spiritual and religious manipulation. She was ultimately defeated by Thanos and Adam Warlock, who cast her into the Soul Gem alongside her enemy, the Magus. When a war between the Kree and Shi'ar empires imperiled Earth's sun, the Avengers attempted to intervene. Trying to revitalize his race's genetics, Kree ruler the Supreme Intelligence, the war's secret instigator, engineered the detonation of the Nega bomb, destroying 98% of the Kree Empire. Secretly influenced by the Time Lord Immortus, Iron Man led a group of renegade Avengers in assassinating the Supreme Intelligence in retaliation. With the intelligence gone, Shi'ar Empress Lilandra absorbed the Kree territories into the Shi'ar Empire. Iron Man succumbed to nerve damage caused by his armor's cybernetic interface. Besieged by enemies, Tony Stark created the War Machine armor. When Stark's health worsened and he was temporarily placed in cryogenic suspension, he arranged to have Jim Rhodes don the suit. A microchip reprogrammed Stark's body, enabling his recovery and return to action in new modular armor. Meanwhile, the UK's Mystech Corporation's villainy was opposed by Hell's Angel, later Dark Angel, daughter of Mystech's chief scientist, Ranulph Haldane. Motormouth and her partner, Mystech's genetically engineered assassin, Killpower, Earth 8410's identity-absorbing cyborg, Death's Head, the mystically empowered Knights of Pendragon, and many others, often aided by heroes from America and across the world. Strife, a clone of Cable, posed as Cable and attempted to assassinate Professor X, prompting chaos within the mutant community before members of the X-Men, X-Factor, and X-Force proved Cable's innocence and confronted Strife. Cable seemingly sacrificed his life to stop Strife. Before his defeat, Strife secretly and sadistically released the mutant-killing legacy virus on Earth. The virus's first victim was Ilyana Rasputin, X-Man Colossus' younger sister and Kitty Pryde's best friend. An angst-ridden Colossus joined Magneto's mutant dominance cause shortly before Magneto attacked humanity again. During the subsequent battle with the X-Men, Magneto forcibly extracted the adamantium metal from Wolverine's skeleton, nearly killing Wolverine. Enraged, Professor X telepathically erased Magneto's mind, unknowingly absorbing some of Magneto's tainted psyche into his own. A gravely wounded Wolverine left the X-Men for a time to recover. Soon after, a civil war erupted in Genosha that ultimately drew both the X-Men and Avengers into the struggle. After briefly battling each other, the teams discovered mutant concentration camps on the island and joined forces to defeat mutant supremacist Exodus and bring an end to the war. The Midnight Suns discovered the supernatural dimensional barriers had been weakened due to the machinations of demons Zarathos and Lilith, allowing Lilith's shadow side dimension to infect the world. Despite suffering huge losses, the Midnight Suns destroyed Zarathos and restored the barriers. Violence erupted when the psychotic symbiote-empowered Carnage escaped Ravencroft Institute and recruited other imbalanced superhumans for a terror and murder spree through New York. Spider-Man similarly gathered a superpowered opposition, including his enemy Venom. After Carnage's family of criminals was defeated, Spider-Man overcame Carnage through the use of fire, Carnage's great vulnerability. To quell vigilante violence, the U.S. government sponsored the Vigilante Infraction General Interdiction and Limitation, VIGIL, task force, which attempted to capture the Punisher. After he faked his death, the Punisher went underground as a host of impersonators took his place. The Punisher eventually killed VIGEL's corrupt Lieutenant Taylor Blackwell and resumed his war on crime. Determined to discover why mutants seemed immune to their techno-organic infection, the alien phalanx attacked the X-Men and invaded Earth. After the invasion was repelled, the young mutants the phalanx had captured enrolled at Xavier's Massachusetts Academy as Generation X. Remaining together until the Academy's closure, many of the students later joined the X-Men proper. While battling Legion, Xavier's son, who suffered from dissociative identity disorder, a number of X-Men and Legion were transported to the past where Legion inadvertently killed his father instead of his intended target, Magneto, causing a universal reality warp, one in which Magneto formed the X-Men in Xavier's memory, and Apocalypse ruled with an iron fist. Learning of the warp from the time-traveling Bishop, the X-Men battled Apocalypse and used the Shi'ar Macran crystal to restore Reality 616. The so-called Age of Apocalypse diverged into Reality 295. Determined to destroy Spider-Man, Norman Osborn clandestinely masterminded great chaos in Peter Parker's life by orchestrating the return of Parker's clone, now calling himself Ben Reilly. Reilly and Parker initially distrusted one another, but eventually became allies and then friends. Reilly became the Scarlet Spider, a hero in his own right. Reilly's return also sparked the return of mad cloning mastermind the Jackal, who sought to further ruin Parker's life by suggesting Reilly was the original Spider-Man and Parker the clone. Following the Jackal's defeat, Parker retired as Spider-Man, and Reilly took his place. When Osborn returned from his self-imposed exile, he targeted Reilly and Parker as the Green Goblin. During the battle, Reilly was impaled on the Goblin's glider and crumbled into dust upon his death, revealing he was the clone all along. After Osborn was defeated, Parker reclaimed his role as Spider-Man. Seeking to protect his Timekeeper's masters from supposed threats by Earthlings, Immortus posed as Kang the Conqueror and sowed mass confusion among the Avengers by manipulating Iron Man into performing villainous acts. Through time travel, a teenage Tony Stark from Reality 96020 battled Iron Man, who eventually sacrificed his life to defeat Kang, leaving the teen Tony to become Reality 616 new Iron Man for a time. Created when Professor X mind-wiped Magneto, the malevolent psychic entity Onslaught unleashed a massive assault on Earth, narrowly stopped through the sacrifice of many of the planet's premier heroes, including the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the Black Panther, Namor, and the Hulk. Their beloved heroes believed dead, the world was devastated. However, at the last moment, Reed and Sue's son, the reality-manipulating Franklin Richards, subconsciously saved the heroes by whisking them into a pocket universe of his own creation. There, they relived variations of their lives, complete with false memories of their histories. Exploiting Earth's need for heroes, a still-alive Baron Zemo's Masters of Evil posed as the heroic Thunderbolts, gaining the world's trust and adoration while plotting world domination. However, many of the former villains truly claimed their new roles and began seeking redemption for their pasts. The immensely powerful Celestials eventually took notice of Franklin Richards and demanded he destroy either Earth 616 or the Pocket Universe. Despite attempted sabotage by Dr. Doom, the refugee heroes agreed to return to Earth 616 to reclaim their true lives. Sympathetic Celestial Ashima saved Franklin's Pocket Universe and relocated its Earth to the opposite side of the sun from Earth 616, replacing the long-departed previous Counter-Earth. Shortly after their return and Iron Man's restoration to his former age, the Avengers were drawn into a time-spanning conflict that revealed Immortus's machinations throughout their history to prevent them from becoming threats to the Timekeepers, who also strove to kill the Destiny Force-wielding Rick Jones. Jones summoned Avengers from throughout time to fight a successful extended war against the Keepers. Apocalypse soon gathered 12 mutants purportedly destined to usher in a golden age for mutant kind, in hopes of exploiting them to attain godhood. The X-Men and Cable prevented him from possessing the body of the Age of Apocalypse's Nate Gray, but were unable to stop his partial merger with Cyclops. Eventually, Jean Grey and Cable located and freed Cyclops. Frightened by the might of Earth's heroes, nearby galactic empires sought to contain humanity by turning the planet into a maximum security penal colony for intergalactic criminals. The plan was spearheaded by the Ru'ul, disguised Kree, led by the still-alive Supreme Intelligence, who secretly sought to rebuild their empire. This plot was eventually defeated by Earth's combined forces, and the extraterrestrial inmates were returned to their proper locations. When the Beast discovered a cure for the legacy virus, it required the sacrifice of a host for dissemination. Without consulting his teammates, Colossus willingly sacrificed himself to cure the disease. Now freed from the virus, Earth's mutant population drastically increased, giving Magneto access to a vast mutant army and providing Professor X with hundreds of new students in a greatly expanded Xavier Institute. Seeking to conquer Earth once more, Kang and his cloned son, the Scarlet Centurion, launched a massive campaign that quickly overwhelmed Earth's protectors. After some time under Kang's dictatorship, the Avengers narrowly removed Kang's power base and dethroned him, freeing Earth. Losing her grip on reality after her children were apparently erased from existence, the Avengers' Scarlet Witch went mad and largely destroyed her own team, including her own former husband, the Vision. After Doctor Strange placed her into a magically induced comatose state, the disheartened Avengers disbanded. S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Nick Fury uncovered evidence Latveria had been funding superhuman terrorism, but was legally barred from intervening. He quietly recruited several heroes for a secret war that deposed Latverian Prime Minister Lucia von Bardas. Fury erased the hero's memory of the events, but was forced into hiding when his actions were later revealed, leaving S.H.I.E.L.D. under Maria Hill's command. When the electricity-wielding Electro was hired to cause a mass breakout of the superhuman Raft prison, a number of heroes assembled to stop the chaos. They remained together as the new Avengers. When these Avengers and the X-Men gathered to discuss the Scarlet Witch, her brother Quicksilver, fearing her execution, secretly manipulated her into restructuring reality to one in which mutants dominated Earth, with Magneto and his family as the ruling House of M. When Earth's heroes gradually came to recall their previous lives, they rallied and challenged Magneto's rule. Furious over years of manipulation, the Witch lashed out, restoring reality, but also stripping the majority of mutant kind of their mutant gene. The M-Day event devastated the mutant population, forcing Earth's few hundred remaining mutants to gather under the X-Men's protection at the Xavier Institute. Government-sponsored sentinels patrolled the grounds, whether mutants wanted their protection or not. An encounter with the Mutant Queen left Spider-Man able to produce organic webbing. But after his wildly fluctuating powers seemingly killed him, Spider-Man's body regenerated, healing old injuries and further enhancing his powers. Seeking to destroy life, Negative Zone despot Annihilus gathered an enormous army called the Annihilation Wave to invade the positive universe. After great universal destruction, Annihilus was stopped due to the great sacrifice of many heroes led by the last remaining Nova, Richard Rider. During the war, thousands were killed, including Thanos of Titan, and a new gathering of heroes was born, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Following a devastating battle between the new warriors and villains, which resulted in the deaths of over 600 civilians, Tony Stark, believing that superhumans needed greater structure and training, supported the Superhuman Registration Act. This act required all superhumans to register with the government. Captain America disagreed, believing government service should be optional. This disagreement led to a superhuman civil war, with lines drawn between pro-registration and anti-registration forces. After Captain America experienced the anger average citizens felt toward anti-registration forces, he surrendered to end the war. Most American heroes joined the U.S.-sponsored 50-state initiative program, receiving the training and structure Tony Stark believed they needed. Others remained fugitives from authorities. While under arrest, Captain America seemingly was assassinated as part of a long-term plan orchestrated by the Red Skull. The initiative, led by new S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Tony Stark and his Avengers, soon deemed registration refusers too dangerous for traditional incarceration. Instead, they were remanded to the Negative Zone's Prison 42. Some heroes continued to resist, including a group of Avengers led by Luke Cage and the new Captain America, the long-believed dead James "Bucky" Barnes, who had recently resurfaced after years of foreign captivity. To end his periodic rampages, the Illuminati, a well-intentioned group that secretly gathered to clandestinely help shape superhuman events, exiled the Hulk from Earth. On a battle-torn planet he soon came to rule. Hulk fell in love and married. When an explosion killed much of the planet's population, including his wife, Hulk blamed the Illuminati and returned to Earth for revenge. After seizing New York City, he learned his extraterrestrial ally Miek had caused the explosion. Iron Man created devices that depowered the Hulk for a time and ended his siege. After the first mutant since M-Day was born, mutant groups and anti-mutant forces vied for control of the baby. Cable rescued her by jumping into the time stream following a massive war, doggedly pursued by the traitorous time-traveling X-Man Bishop, who believed the baby would be responsible for his dystopian future and should be killed. Earth was shaken by the revelation that the shape-shifting alien Skrulls had mounted a secret invasion among the populace. Using the Initiative's infrastructure to launch their assaults, the Skrulls met resistance, largely led by Nick Fury. Following the Skrulls' defeat, Janet Van Dyne was lost, and Norman Osborn was hailed a hero for killing the Skrull Queen on national television. Blamed for the Skrull invasion, Tony Stark was ousted as head of U.S. superhuman forces and S.H.I.E.L.D., and Osborn was given his position. However, Osborn secretly placed numerous unscrupulous individuals in high-ranking positions and fostered questionable activities. Heroes opposed to Osborn's administration found themselves fugitives. Osborn gathered a secret cabal of allies he believed would aid him in his endeavors, and as the Iron Patriot, he founded his own Avengers team, largely comprised of disguised villains. Taking advantage of mutant rights riots in San Francisco, now home to the X-Men, Osborn worked to conscript mutants into his administration and formed his own mutant police force. In response, the X-Men created Utopia, an artificial island sanctuary for mutants off the U.S. coast, and declared independence. A war erupted between the Kree and Shi'ar empires after Black Bolt and Earth's Inhumans claimed leadership of the Kree and the increasingly mad Vulcan. The X-Man Cyclops' long-lost brother became the Shi'ar Emperor. When the Inhumans' final solution, the massive T-bomb, was detonated, both kings were believed lost. A vast tear in reality called the Fault was created, leading to an invasion by a vile dimension known as the Cancerverse that was narrowly stopped through great sacrifice and bloodshed. Captain America was believed dead, but the Red Skull's plan actually caused Steve Rogers' mind to travel to various moments in history. Sending a message to his future comrades to engineer his return to the present, Rogers prevented the Skull from claiming his body, apparently killing him in the process. The Skull's daughter, Sin, soon took up the Red Skull mantle. Norman Osborn soon faced setbacks as his fellow villains betrayed him or lost power. Manipulated by Loki into launching an all-out assault on Asgard, now located on Earth, Osborn was opposed by heroes led by Steve Rogers. Following the siege, Asgard lay in ruins. Osborn's insanity was laid bare in front of numerous media outlets. Rogers was appointed commander of the country's superhuman forces, and the Superhuman Registration Act was repealed at last. The leader and a criminal alliance called the Intelligentsia transformed General Thunderbolt Ross into the Red Hulk, who caused chaos on their behalf before betraying them. Eventually, several new Hulks, including Banner's estranged wife and General Ross's daughter, Betty, the Red She-Hulk, opposed and ultimately defeated the Intelligentsia. Dr. Doom, desiring Wakanda's vibranium for its physical and mystical properties, helped foster a coup that temporarily deposed T'Challa's ruling family. Despite efforts by T'Challa, his sister Shuri, and the X-Men, Doom succeeded in claiming the vibranium. In response, T'Challa mystically caused the majority of Wakanda's vibranium to go inert, removing Doom's power base and greatly weakening Wakanda's global and economic position. Now, a 17-year-old named Hope, the infant Cable, rescued, returned with him from the time stream, but found herself the focus of mutant-killing Bastion's campaign against mutants. In the resulting war, many X-Men were maimed or killed. California's Bay Area was terrorized, and Cable sacrificed himself to stop Bastion. Furious over her father figure's death, Hope finally manifested her mutant ability to mimic and amplify mutant powers, which she used to destroy Bastion and apparently activate 5 new mutants around the globe inadvertently. Through all of this, Spider-Man's life continued to change. Peter Parker found new love with Carly Cooper and employment at Horizon Labs. As Spider-Man, he battled new foes such as Menace and Mr. Negative. Commander Rogers helped usher in a post-registration heroic age. He established 3 Avengers teams, including a covert roster for diplomatically sensitive missions, and oversaw heroes like the students of Avengers Academy and a new iteration of the Thunderbolts. Daredevil was tricked by the Hand into becoming their leader, and the unknowing host to a demonic beast. He ruthlessly protected Hell's Kitchen from his Shadowland castle and was opposed by many of his former allies. Eventually freed from the beast's control, Matt Murdock temporarily abandoned his Daredevil identity. The Hand fell under the Kingpin's control. After consuming various alien pantheons, Amatsu Mikaboshi, the Chaos King, set his sights on all reality. Hercules summoned Earth's heroes to join the battle, but Mikaboshi caused all mortals to fall into a deathless and dreamless sleep. Hercules was joined by numerous deceased heroes in resisting the Chaos King and eventually trapped him in a pocket reality. Using temporary omnipotence, Hercules reversed the damage to reality. In the negative zone, a reborn Annihilus attempted to invade Earth again, but was opposed by the Fantastic Four's Thing and Human Torch, and the Fantastic Four's gifted future Foundation wards. The Torch was forced to sacrifice himself to prevent another annihilation wave. Following the Torch's death, the Fantastic Four retired their name and colors, claiming the future Foundation appellation and uniforms. Joined by the Torch's friend Spider-Man, the newly expanded family continued their efforts to explore the boundaries of the unknown and improve existence for all. Odin's long-lost brother, the Serpent, returned, reclaiming his title as the God of Fear, empowering 8 superhumans with Thor-like power, the Serpent, to spread fear, chaos, and death throughout the world. After the sacrifices of many, including James Barnes and Thor, the Serpent was defeated. With Barnes' death, Steve Rogers took up Captain America's shield once more. New Yorkers soon found themselves wall-crawling and web-spinning when the insane Jackal's experiments granted all of Manhattan's spider powers. Through great effort, Spider-Man reversed the Jackal's work and restored New York to its pre-infestation status. As you can see from all I've shown you, the history of these marvels is one of grand struggles and strange battles. Yet through it all, it's not the unbelievable events that fuel my interest in observing them. It's the Marvel's determination to survive and thrive amongst these trials that grasp my interest. their strength of character, their unwavering hope, all of which, no doubt, will enable the Marvels to flourish no matter what. I will remain vigilant and fascinated to watch all that is still to come.